Hey guys, it's Mike. All right, so a lot of really interesting things are starting to happen on the channel. Um, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a look at least one comment, question, and give my opinion on it. And if we have time in this video, maybe I'll move on to some other stuff. In any case, before we get started, I must give the standard disclaimer. I am not a licensed counselor. I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I am not a mental health professional in any way. I am not an expert in mental illness. I am not a borderline. I am simply a self-confessed, um, what am I? Codependent who qualifies because I was in a relationship with someone with severe borderline personality disorder, and I have achieved a level of recovery at the moment. And so, do not take anything I say in place of any real help from a qualified health professional. If you have any kind of issue, please seek out a psychologist who can help you with either your codependence or any other mental health issue you may have. Any action you choose to take is completely your responsibility. Right, so let's talk about codependence. As you know, this channel is geared towards the partners of people who have been in or are in relationships with people who have borderline personality disorder. Of course, there is, again, there's a huge, what do you call that? A huge scale, a spectrum. Sorry, I just woke up a little while ago. There's a spectrum when it comes to borderlines. They're not all the same. Some of them are quiet. Some of them have other comorbid things, which means they can be a BPD and a narcissist and PTSD and blah, blah, blah. But let's get to some questions here. So, question here says, this was in response to my video, BPD, the red flags to watch out for, avoid being seduced by a borderline. And this person says, great video, but I got confused again. Okay, I admit I had codependency issue because I was with the BPD. So what I have said and will continue to say, there's nothing any of you can do to talk me out of this belief. You are free to have your own belief. I am not forcing you to believe this. My belief, based on my experience, is that anybody who has had any extended period of romantic connection with a borderline, and by extended I mean, a couple days or more, by definition, if you have had that much time with them and connected with them romantically, you are by definition a codependent. The word codependent has nothing to do with being dependent on somebody else. A couple of people have responded they don't like that word because they don't like the word dependent. It's just a word. Look up what codependence means. I didn't make it up. I have the opinion because that's been my experience and my observation. But it's not just coming from me. Anybody in the healthcare, a healthcare professional will say, if you say, I've been with a borderline for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, they're going to go, okay, so what the codependent needs to they're going to automatically call you a codependent. It's the dynamic. Narcissists, alcoholics, drug addicts, borderlines, the only kinds of people that will stay with them are codependents. So get over it. You are codependent. Now you need to find out what that means, and you need to find out how you participated in creating your own misery. All right? So this person says, great video, but I got confused again. Okay, I admit I had codependency issues because I was with the BPD, but I can't believe my codependency is as severe as BPD. Because you mentioned in the video it will require lifelong therapy to recover from codependency. Are they even on the same level in terms of dysfunction? And then this person goes on to describe the level of dysfunction this borderline had. Yes, the answer to your question is categorically yes. Now, you don't have the same expression of dysfunction that they do. They have borderline personality disorder, so their dysfunction will express itself according to borderline personality disorder. Codependency means that your dysfunction comes in your inability to protect yourself from somebody who starts destroying your boundaries and feeding off of your insides. Your level of dysfunction comes in when somebody is abusive to you, you respond with more love towards them. So if there's a scale of 1 to 10, right? If we take this level of 1 to 10 dysfunction, this is of course totally hypothetical and arbitrary. But let's say, okay, you know your borderline, and you can say your borderline is at a level of 8.25 dysfunction. Well, in order for you to be with that person and stay with them, you have to have a level of 8.25 dysfunction on a codependent level. Otherwise, it won't work. Water seeks its same level. If you didn't meet their needs, or if you didn't give them their supply, quote unquote, they would discard you and find somebody else. As long as you don't successfully actually reach their core with true empathy and true love, they won't discard you. You can just keep at that level and keep things going. As long as it feeds both of you, it'll keep working. So yeah, I mean, think about it. Now, with that question in mind, the only person who's going to be with somebody who's really screwed up is somebody who doesn't have the ability to stop themselves from responding to the impulse to take care or to connect or to chase after or to obsess over, right? And now you're going to tell us how dysfunctional you are, because you're now going to try and defend that you are functional and they're dysfunctional, and you're up here and they're down there. And so how could you possibly be at their level of dysfunction? Well, the question is, again, why are you with them? Somebody who that didn't have level 8.25 codependence would have gone, oh my God, this is too much for me to handle. I got to get out of here. But let's see. Because you mentioned in the video it will require lifelong therapy to recover from codependency. I don't know that I used those exact words. If I did, that was the feeling I was having at the moment. But yeah, at the very least, the best case scenario is you can achieve a state of recovery that you will have to maintain. For many people, depending on how deep their dysfunction is, how long they've been in it, how strong their denial is, then it may take longer. But yeah, it's a lifelong thing. It's probably never going to completely go away. But you can have some level of recovery where you are, in essence, as though you're cured. It's all right there beneath the surface, and if you don't do the work, you can easily regress and relapse. That's true for any of the illnesses associated: alcoholism, drug addiction. As I understand from people who claim that they have recovery in borderline personality disorder and are in treatment, they say the same thing. If they don't keep doing the same kinds of maintenance, that they can relapse instantaneously. Alcoholics, the same thing. They can be sober for literally 40 years and then one day decide, hey, I think I can drink now, and then they die. That's just as an example. Drug addicts, obviously, perfectly fine for decades, and then, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea to shoot heroin in my neck, and then, they OD and die. So the codependent is the same. You could be fine, and then something will trigger you. Mine was triggered. I've been in 12-step work and in therapy, either one of those for, almost 40 years. So I have pretty good awareness of what my issues are and my codependency, and I've worked really hard at that over the years. Codependency, I will say, is harder to deal with, because it's easier, as you're going to point out, it's easier to survive with that than it is with, some like borderline or something else, because of the level of external dysfunction. Anyway, let me get into it here. So again, your point is that you're up here and they're down there. How could your codependency be as bad and as dysfunctional as their borderline? And you're going to prove that by saying, let me tell you how screwed up she is, right? So you said, my BPDX was so dysfunctional she could not keep a job. She changed degrees and career objectives, and every few days was on spending sprees and drove recklessly like no tomorrow. She was 27 years old and in first year in undergrad degree because none of her other career paths worked. She acted inhumane and out of control. When she was triggered, like shaking and crying for hours, even if I had not done anything. I am nothing like that. Okay, so you are nothing like that, meaning you can have a job, you can follow through with, go to school and follow through and get a degree. You don't drive crazy, you don't go on spending sprees, you don't break down and cry and shake at the drop of a hat for hours over nothing. So the question is, if you're that put together, what the hell are you doing with somebody so screwed up? For how long were you with her? You didn't, I don't see here. I'm assuming it was for a long time. What the hell is wrong with you that you would be with somebody that screwed up for that length of time? According to you, here's all the proof this person is totally incapable of functioning and incapable of having a relationship, and yet you stayed. Only a crazy person does that. So your insanity is that you can make it work with somebody who proves to you, from the beginning they prove to you, they are incapable of giving you what you think you want. That's a level of intense insanity. Now, what happens to your life? Have you lost money? Have you lost time? Have you lost sanity? Have you lost health? Have you lost self-esteem? Add up all the stuff that you've lost as a result of being with this dysfunctional person. That's the same. That is your drug. They are your drug. You are addicted to them and their craziness and their whatever it is, crying and shaking. You say you don't like it, but if that were true, you would have left. There must be something about them that you like or you wouldn't be there. That shows something's really off. So if she's at 8.25 out of 10, that means your codependence is at a level 8.25. Now, just like other addictions, drug addiction, maybe it started off with a little bit of coke and some weed, but then it progressed to, slamming, coke in your neck. Didn't start out slamming coke in your neck on the first day, right? So the BPD didn't start out as dysfunctional on the first day. It took you a while. You got a taste for their insanity. They got more insane. You went over to overcompensate and fix them and take care of them. You got addicted. Your insanity grew and grew. So now you started at a level 4.25 and now you're at a level 8.25. So the short answer is yes. The rest of us can see that. The rest of us go, why the hell is he with her? There's something really wrong with that guy. But you say, no, I've got it all put together. In fact, I've got it so put together that I'm going to keep her together as well as myself. Big, giant, insane mark across the forehead there. Everybody can see it but you. So she's this, she's that, she does all these things. I am nothing like that. In fact, I am quite ambitious and career driven and absolutely not dysfunctional like her, except that you're willing to put your career at risk in order to be with her. So you can't be that ambitious, because if you were super ambitious and you knew that somebody like that is going to get in the way of you being successful, you would have gone, listen, I can't do this. I love you. I wish I could fix you, but I'm more interested in my career than in wallowing in your filth. Right? She's insane. Right. And you're with her. What does that say about you? I got into a relationship with when I was going through a lot in life. Right. Me too. I got involved with mine because my fiance, whom I loved, who was the love of my life, if there ever was a twin flame thing, she was it. And she passed away. It devastated me. And 2 years later, after that, I was still looking for somebody to replace her. And the borderline came along and morphed into almost an identical copy. And I fell for it because of my need. You were going through a lot. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean that, yeah, it's understandable. But why are you trying to excuse that you did an insane thing? The reason why you did an insane thing is because you were going through a lot in life. And that distorted your ability to act in a sane manner. So all you're doing is you are telling us that you are as dysfunctional as your partner was. The expression of your dysfunction is different. You can hold a job, but you can't keep away from a destructive person who's incapable of giving you what you want. Okay, so because I know BPD is so I got into a relationship when I was going through a lot. So what's your take on codependency being lifelong? I've already explained that. Sorry you don't like that. That's my understanding. And as I said, you can reach a state of being equated to cured. It doesn't mean that you don't have the potential to relapse. It just means that if you do the maintenance, this is what the 12 steps are in Codependence Anonymous. If you work the 12 steps, it creates a maintenance. You can maintain your level of sanity. But it doesn't mean that you still don't have the potential underneath to relapse. But you can reach a state of cure where you don't get involved with destructive people, and your boundaries are intact. You have the sense of self, the identity, the self-love, so that you don't need to seek it out in somebody else, which attracts a different kind of person who's able to give love and take it. Because the fact of the matter is, when you were attracted to the borderline, you weren't able to handle real love. Okay? All right. So let's see here. So what's my take on codependency lifelong? Because I know BPD is lifelong. BPD was damaging every aspect of my ex-partner's life, but not yours? For me, my codependency became damaging for me once I got into a relationship with BPD, except for your codependency was with you the whole time. She just activated it. It was already there. You were actively looking for something to distract you from the pain of your codependency. The borderline is a distraction from something even more painful. And that's what you're trying to avoid. And if you're dealing with that, then the borderline is not attractive to you, and nor are they attracted to you. But before that, it did not affect me at all in any aspect of my life. It was latent. That doesn't mean that you didn't have it. Also, can codependency be a spectrum? Of course. Codependency is like drug addiction in that it can start at this level, but once it gets activated and stimulated, like any other kind of dependency, then your addiction becomes greater and greater. You need more fix in order to run away from the pain that's being created. You chased after the borderline because there's some initial trauma that you suffered as a kid, neglect, abuse, shaming, something. And you're reliving that trauma so that you can, in a false attempt to overcome it. That's the sad part. Unconsciously, what you're doing is you're recreating the trauma. The same thing is true for the borderline. You're recreating the trauma so that you can try and become conscious of it and then heal. That is one of the things that can be. People say, meeting a borderline was the best thing I ever went through. If after this, it becoming activated and you realize you have a problem, then you realize that the borderline isn't the problem. It was what your mom did. That was my case too. The death of my partner reactivated the feelings of abandonment and neglect that I had as a little kid. And then the borderline stimulated that and activated that even more, where I was really fully conscious of the black hole inside of me. And I remembered that that was the feeling I had as a little kid with my mother. And once I realized that, I went, oh, this has nothing to do with her. But I still have to get away from her. And then I could focus on what the real trauma was, which was healing that. And then once I became aware of that, and then simultaneously saw that I was with somebody who had a severe mental illness, who was incapable, which is why I sought her out, then I became aware. And that, that's where the healing started. As long as you keep talking about how screwed up she is, you are continuing to justify your insanity to yourself. If you're angry, like if you're rageful, and I understand that people say, my so-and-so this, F them, screw them, you're just waiting to be re-triggered again. You're covering it over with a scab that sort of pusses over. The scab is, trying to heal, and the pus is the anger that's coming out. It's infected. And every time you scratch it when you're angry, you just, you deepen the wound. And then, what's really going on when you're angry about, when you're furious and full of rage and you're seething with resentment that doesn't go away about how horrible they are and what they did to you and you're a victim. It means that you're in denial. It means that you unconsciously want them to come and heal you. You want them to, you have a delusion that they know what they did, and if they can just acknowledge it and then come and take care of you, it'll all be okay. That's why I keep hammering away that borderline is a mental illness. And if you can come to realize that they are mentally ill, then you can stop trying to expect them to see the light, understand, and come and ask for your forgiveness and then be there for you. As you read some of the comments of people, I recommend people do that. Read the comments that are left here. There are borderlines who are in recovery who are acknowledging what I'm saying, that you're right. We are broken here. We will never be able to do that. The best we can do is, whatever they do to compensate and learn and grow, but they are broken. And that's okay. I mean, we all have something. But if they're untreated, it means that that is running them. It means that it's not that if they just pulled it up, it's like telling an alcoholic, well, why can't you just suck it up and control it and not, they don't have any control they're responsible, just like the borderline is responsible for the damage they cause, but it doesn't mean that they have any conscious control. It only comes through when they do the work. So if you want your life back and you don't want to be years later in pain, in turmoil, or like some people on here continuously attracting more and more borderlines, there's some people talk about how many borderlines they've been with. That's somebody who's got some severe codependence that they have, they can't control that impulse. They need help. Their drug is borderlines. They need help. So yeah, short answer is yeah. However screwed up they are in external life, that's how screwed up you are in your internal life. You guys meet at the same level, that's why you're together. And every argument that you say proving to me that you're not screwed up because of how screwed up they are tells me that's the level of how screwed up you are inside. They project on the outside in their screwed up life how you feel on the inside. It means if you look at your borderline and say, they can't hold down a job, they can't do this, they react this way, they're so screwed up, oh my God, that's how you feel inside. But you've got this fake external outside that holds down a job and follows through and pays the bills and all of that. It's as much, it's a cover, it's a functional cover. And you have other things working for you in your brain that the borderline doesn't. But internally, emotionally, psychologically, you are just as screwed up as they are. All right? I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think you get it. But please address if codependency is lifelong and as I think you mean debilitating as BPD. It is, just on a different level. That's why you seek each other out, because that person is seeking, the borderline is seeking to have your level of external control in life, and they think they're going to get it through you. And you want the level of internal control you think you can get by fixing the borderline. By fixing the borderline, you're trying to fix the problem within you. The borderline, like the child, is seeking you out so that they can try and pull themselves up and get control over their emotions and their external life. Right? All right, that's it. Talk to you guys later.